It is Thursday morning in Athens, Greece, and I thought I would do a quick update as to what's going on in Ukraine. We'll talk about three stories which I think are important. What's going on the ground in Ukraine real quick. You have the cauldrons are still there. The force in the east is encircled. That's the big force of 60,000 troops that are still in this cauldron, and they're trapped there. I've heard reports that now they're going to split those troops into two as well. They're going to create two separate cauldrons, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But that's the big news. Is this these guys in the east, which are the Ukraine military, which is trapped in this cauldron, and we have we still have the encirclement of Mariupol, Kiev, the Odessa cauldron, which is forming, and they're trying to create these humanitarian corridors. The Russians are trying to create these humanitarian corridors. Some people are coming out. I mean, a lot of times these corridors are not successful, but with time, we're seeing more and more people starting to get evacuated from these cities. And remember, the purpose of these corridors is to not only evacuate civilians, but to evacuate military as well, the Ukraine military, to get them to put down their arms and to just go home. So the cauldrons serve two purposes. The corridors serve two purposes: get civilians out and get the military to lay down their arms. I'm actually here in a small little park in Greece. You can see these little outdoor gym sets, which are sturdy. These things last snow, rain, sun, you name it, and they're nice. Actually, good. They work. To be honest, they really do work, and yeah, pretty cool. Gym park. Anyway, I just thought I would show you guys where I am, because a lot of people ask, where are you and what's around you? So that's where I am right now, and so I'll sit down here and continue this. So yeah, so you have the humanitarian corridors. The Ukraine government, the Zelensky government, they're sitting down at the negotiation table. Not much progress is made, but the Ukraine government is giving a little bit each time, and given the fact that this has been an 8-year process and it's taken 8 years to even get the Ukraine government to the table, that's progress. And like we've said in many videos, the military operation and the diplomacy, they're working hand in hand to try and achieve some sort of settlement, and that's how the Russians are working this war, this conflict. They use the diplomacy, they use the military, they heat up the cauldrons, they create these humanitarian corridors, they evacuate civilians, they try to get the military to lay down their arms, and this is an on again, off again process, and progress is made. It's slow, it's incremental, but day by day, week by week, progress is made. And this is very much how things went about in Syria as well. It's not an exact copy of Syria, but the overarching strategy is the same. And, it's going to be on again, off again. Successful humanitarian corridor, not successful humanitarian corridor. Successful round of negotiations, not successful. And that's how it's going to go until those demands that the Russians have put out on the table are met. Anyway, just wanted to give a quick overview as to what's happening on the ground. Just keep in mind that with each passing day, those cauldrons are heated up. Those encirclements, whether they're in Mariupol or the east or in Kiev, they're tightened a little bit, and then diplomacy. Tightened a little bit more, then diplomacy. Another humanitarian corridor, evacuation, then they're heated up again, then diplomacy. Then, it's just like a never-ending process. So let's get to the main stories. The first one is the biolabs in Victoria, Nuland. And a lot of people are scratching their head. What the hell happened? Because you had PolitiFact and Snopes and all the fact checkers telling us for the past 2 weeks that there are no biolabs and there are no research laboratories. This is just Russian disinformation. This is fake Kremlin propaganda. And then sure enough, we get the testimony from Cookies Nuland, the woman who was responsible for the coup in 2014. passing out cookies at the Maidan, and we have Cookies Nuland, a very, very high-level neocon. She comes out and she admits, yeah, there are research labs. She says there's bio-research laboratories because Rubio asked her, are there biolab weapons, chemical biolab weapons, bioweapons and chemicals in Ukraine? And this was all scripted, by the way. I think this was all completely scripted. I think that, this whole exchange, Rubio coming in there and saying, I have a minute left. So with a minute left, my question is, are there bioweapons in Ukraine? This whole thing this is all scripted, man, 100%. And I'll tell you why I think it's scripted. But yeah, she admits it. She doesn't say weapons. She's very careful not to say weapons. She says research facilities, right? And so why was this scripted? Well, I think you have to look at the questioning in two parts, right? First, you have the lead in, which is I just have a minute left. So with a minute left, this is what I'm going to ask you, right? I'm going to ask you about biolabs, which I think could be an entire investigation on its own. That should be an entire week's investigation on its own. But with the minute left, Rubio's going to throw it out there. Just throw it out there. And the first part of the questioning, which is, are there bioweapons in Ukraine? I think that first part is used as a way to get ahead of the story. In other words, I believe the Russian Ministry of Defense, what they've shown us with documents is just the very, very tip of the iceberg. I think they have a lot more information. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually start taking us on a tour of those bio labs that they have under their control now. So I think the first part is Nuland and Rubio and these neocons just trying to get ahead of the story, just trying to say there are no bio labs which were being used to create offensive weapons. What we do have are research facilities being used for research purposes and just defensive in nature. And that's those are the stories now that we're starting to see from the mainstream media, which is, yes, there were research facilities, but these research facilities were just there in order to prevent certain viruses from coming out, in order to create antidotes. Some of these research facilities, I've seen stories about research facilities that were in Ukraine in order to look at food production and fertilizers and crops. I mean, you're just getting all kinds of different narratives coming out, but the message is the same. These research facilities weren't meant in order to create weapons. They were meant in order to do some sort of defensive measures, or in order for some sort of good, right? That's the message that they're trying to put out now, which is ridiculous. And I'll say why it's ridiculous. Because if these research labs were benign, if they weren't dangerous, if they weren't meant to do any harm whatsoever, then why keep them hidden? Number one, why do you hide them? And number two, why does Victoria Nuland say that she's worried about the Russians getting a hold of these research facilities? If these research facilities are just doing run-of-the-mill stuff, nothing dangerous, then what does she care? I've also heard the narrative that these were old Soviet research facilities that the Ukrainians were just, looking after with the help of the United States. By the way, the U.S. has also come out with a statement. The Pentagon came out with a statement. I think it was the Pentagon or the other State Department. And they said that in no way does the U.S. own or operate bio research facilities. The key word there, own or operate. No way do they own or operate. Funding? Sure. Helping out? Probably. But no owning or operating. So, it's oh boy. Semantics. It's the semantics, right? So yeah, that's the first thing that I want to say about that. It's why worry if these research facilities are meant for research reasons, or for peaceful reasons, or for defensive reasons? Nuclear weapons are also defensive, right? Yeah, nuclear weapons are defensive as well. So the first part is, the first part of the questioning, no doubt about it, was about getting ahead of the story. Period. They want to get ahead of the story. The Russians got the goods. They got I think they got a lot of dirty stuff that they're going to put out there. A lot of dirty stuff that they're going to put out there. these are weapons of mass destruction. Keep in mind, this was the pretext used to invade Iraq. Weapons of mass destruction. Remember Colin Powell and his little anthrax vial? And they found no weapons of mass destruction. Now the Russians have found weapons of mass destruction. This is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And it's a big deal because, it does give justification for a preemptive attack. I mean, this was used in 2003, and they found no weapons. But Colin Powell was saying that there's anthrax in Iraq. Now the Russians have found the facilities. And the worst part about it is that Victoria Nuland has admitted that there are these facilities. So that's just a fact now. And so much for the fact checkers. So much for the fact checkers. Are they going to get deplatformed? Are they going to get banned from Facebook and Twitter? Is PolitiFact going to, is their account going to be canceled? No, but boy, did the fact checkers get this one wrong. And so let's go to the second part of the question. The second part of the question was Rubio. This one was something else, real piece of work, this scripted exchange. Rubio says, okay, so if there is a biological or chemical weapons attack in Ukraine, 100%, without a doubt, the Russians would be responsible. That was his question, pretty much. I'm paraphrasing. But that's what he said. Do you have any doubt, Miss Nuland, that if there is a biological attack, the Russians will be 100, and he uses the word, he says 100% responsible for that attack. And she says, yeah, absolutely. Talk about a loaded question. She's like, yeah, absolutely, because these are typical Russian tactics where they try to project, where they try to blame the other side for something that they're doing, right? The whole thing was just completely scripted. What a loaded question. And I think that question was thrown out there to Victoria Nuland so that they can create the narrative that if a false flag, a chemical weapons false flag, does occur in Ukraine, which is probably being planned, then it is the Russians. Right? This is like, because now you're seeing a lot of blue check marks on Twitter saying the same exact thing. They're saying, make no mistake about it, if a biological or chemical weapons attack takes place in Ukraine, the Russians are responsible. And you're seeing blue check marks starting to amplify the very question and response that Nuland gave. It's incredible to see. I mean, this is hypnosis, This is pure hypnosis. Propaganda at its finest. And they're just telling the people, they're training the masses to accept the fact that if a false flag does happen in Ukraine using biological or chemical weapons, it's the Russians. You don't need to do an investigation. We don't need to take a step back and see what's going on. We don't need to question anything. Just take it as fact that the Russians did it. They did the same thing in Syria. Specifically, I remember with Duma. And the minute that happened, Assad was winning the war, by the way. He was crushing ISIS, crushing them. He was winning the war, and everyone's scratching their heads saying, he's winning the war, decisively winning the war. Why would he do something that stupid like launching a chemical attack? And no one investigated it. No one decided to question it, because the minute something like that happens, the media is, they're like on it within hours, and it's amplified on social media, and the blue check marks retweet stuff, and then you get the statements from Brussels and Washington and DC and the van der Leyens and the Psaki's and the Bidens, and all these people come out with their statements and their outrage. And there's no questioning any of it. I remember that attack. Nikki Haley held up the photos, and Ivanka Trump took the photos and showed it to her father, and President Trump was outraged, and Ivanka Trump was crying, and all of these things. And no one sits there and says, you know what, let's have an investigation. Hold on a minute. Let's see what happened. Is this even real? What the hell is going on? Nuh-uh. You are guilty literally within a few hours, and then it's amplified throughout the internet. And they may be planning something similar in Ukraine, as it's fact. The Russians have won this thing outright. I mean, there's no. Everyone just needs to to accept the fact that this is the reality of the situation on the ground. The Russians are in full control. They control the airspace. They control the navy, the shoreline in the south. All the major cities are encircled. They have the cauldrons. They have the bulk of the Ukraine troops in the east surrounded. So much like in Syria, are we going to see some sort of chemical or biological false flag? Does it even have to be real? Does it even have to be real? Does it have to be a major incident? No. It could be a very small incident, and that may be enough. The point is that something like this happens and it gets amplified, and the Russians are guilty, and then you get the push for a no-fly zone or for more military equipment to be sent into Ukraine, which is the goal. They want more aircraft, more military sent into Ukraine. They want a prolonged insurgency. They want to create a no-fly zone, and they need the pretext to do that. So, that's what I think the second part of questioning was about. I think it was setting up the stage for what is going to be some sort of false flag there. I think it's being cooked up. And, we saw a false flag with the Zaporozhye nuclear reactor, but that didn't pan out. And so just keep your eyes open, everybody, and expect something to happen. Hopefully the Russians will be on top of their game, and it won't happen, because no one wants to see these types of false flags from either side, right? No one wants escalation either, which is what the false flag is meant to do. It's meant to escalate the situation. So anyway, let's get to the second story, which is the Russians really messing up here. The Russian media and the Russians messing up here because Putin came out with a statement a couple days ago, and he says there are no conscripts in this war, right? And he says, no, these are only professional, the best of the best professional soldiers. And sure enough, we have now learned, and this is from the Russian Ministry of Defense spokesman, he has come out with a statement saying that, yes, there are soldiers that are conscripts. And a few of them are captured, he said all of them have returned home now, but a few of them have been captured. And this is a major, major mess up, because President Putin said there are no conscripts in this fight, and now it's been revealed that there are. So this was a big mess up. What it does show is two things. Once again, the Russian media and the messaging is way off. Putin should have said the truth if he knew. I'm sure he knew. He should have said the truth. And it shows another thing that we have been saying for a while. The best forces in Russia are not involved in this. They're being held back. The really, really good top-level military personnel and the top-level soldiers are not involved in this at the moment. What you do have is you have a very professional army, but you also you probably still have, but according to the Ministry of Defense, those conscripts have gone home. But there are a lot of military personnel and soldiers that are young, that are very green. They're not battle hardened. So this is their first. This may very well be their first operation of this kind. And it's probably a smart move for the military to hold back on their very best. Send the guys that are a little new to this, give them some experience, send them in, achieve some of the major goals that they want to achieve, and let's hold back our best for later. But the messaging of this, the optics, terrible. This was a major mess up, and it looks bad for Russia. It looks bad for Putin, and it shows that they were lying. It shows that they were lying. There are conscripts there, and they should have admitted that. So that was a big mess up, and they got busted. And the third piece of news is that the Ministry of Defense has shown documentation that Ukraine was planning some sort of blitzkrieg attack on the east in March. Now, why do I believe these documents? Well, two reasons. Number one is the Ministry of Defense showed the documents of the biolabs, and those proved to be true. And Nuland has admitted to such, and I'm sure they've got so much more dirt. But anyway, so they showed those documents, and those were true. And the other reason I believe these documents are true is because you have these 60 to 100,000 soldiers in the east of Ukraine who are encircled, who are stuck in this cauldron. And so why would you have 1/3 of the Ukraine military? Look, the Ukraine military is something like 250,000 strong. Why would you have 60 to 100,000 of that military force all the way in the east if you're not planning some sort of attack, some sort of major escalation? And we know there was a major escalation because we have the ODYSEE, which is an independent organization, not very friendly to Russia. They were reporting that 5 days before the February 24th operation started, there was heavy shelling in the east of Ukraine, in the Donbass. And that shelling was coming from the Ukraine military. This is the ODYSEE. They said 80% of the attacks are being initiated by the Ukraine military. So they were softening up the area, and they were preparing some sort of big operation. And those 60,000 to 100,000 troops that are now encircled, well, they got surprised. I think they got surprised. I think they were planning in March to go all in, and shock and awe the east of Ukraine and take it over. And it looks like the Russian military beat them to the punch. And no one was expecting it. And on the 24th of February, they went in and they surrounded them. That's what it looks like happened. So you have to ask yourself the question, why would you have such a massive military force all the way in the Donbass if you weren't planning something? And keep in mind, this is the best of their military force. I mean, these are the Azov guys who are in Mariupol, who are now stuck in that cauldron. I mean, this is the best of the Ukraine military that is now surrounded in the east. And it looks like the Ukraine armed services, the armed forces, they had the best of their best in the east, ready to mount a big, massive blitzkrieg attack and take over Donetsk and Lugansk. And they were surprised and beaten to the punch by the Russian military. So look, those are the three stories. Nuland, the biolabs. Wow, this is a massive story. I mean, this breaks all kinds of international law, Geneva Convention. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than this. And it's confirmed because Nuland has said as much. And the scripted exchange with Nuland-Rubio was 100% scripted. Keep on the lookout for false flags, everybody. Keep on the lookout. This really worries me, and I hope it doesn't come to pass. I don't want to see any false flags. I don't want to see any type of escalation, especially no-fly zones, which will lead to World War III. But that questioning was put in place for a reason. It wasn't some random type of questioning from Rubio to Nuland. That's for sure. So you have that story. You have the story of the soldiers and the conscripts in Russia. A big F up, major F up from the Russian side, and then you have this story with the Ministry of Defense, and the fact that they're coming out with documents of a Ukraine attack that was being set up in March. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. theduran.locals.com, and look for Alexander's channel and the Duran's live streams as well. Take care.